where you guys were at, because for some reason you made the claim that this is the case that there's no distinction between a minimalist who believes in theism and an atheist. Do you believe this to be the case?
Sorry?
Do you believe it to be
What was
the
the
case
question?
that there's no distinction, there's no sort of like distinction between a minimalist who is a theist and an atheist who is like basically just not going to be existentially committed to the proposition that God exists? Is that something you believe in?
Oh, if I believe, yeah, it's hard to see what they're believing that is different about the world. Do you
Wait,
think
hold
there's
on.
a difference?
So wait, hold on a second, because in the conversation you had with Free to Go before you asked me questions, in the conversation you
Mm-hmm.
had with Free to Go, what I heard you say was simply that you asked him originally what would be the distinction between a theist who is a minimalist, and I'm pretty sure even the guy named Rizhan in this piece can vouch for this occurring. You ask him what's the distinction between a minimalist who is a theist, who's making the claim that God exists, and an atheist who's saying that God does not exist. You ask him for the distinction right there. And then afterwards, you clarify that you're not claiming there to be a distinction. Oh, sorry, you clarify that there's no distinction, yeah, between a minimalist who's a theist and an atheist who is, obviously an atheist who's not committed to God existence or the proposition of God existence. So I'm asking you, do you adopt the position, just to clarify for the recording, do you adopt the position that there is in fact no sort of there's necessarily no sort of, you could say, distinction on an ontic level between a theist of that nature and an atheist?
It's hard for me to see what's their view of the world, like what the difference is supposed to be. If we were to hold
Yeah, they could
everything
just
else,
hold, like a minimalist does
I
not
just
entail, just to
does
be
not
clear,
entail what.
like a minimalist does not, like a minimalist,
I,
it doesn't entail from minimalism about truth that you're not going to be ontologically committed to any of the reference of that proposition. You understand that, right?
I don't think you're like. Do you remember how we explained the views, right? I said, imagine somebody comes to you and says, I agree with you that, you know, there's no such thing as in my ontology, I don't have this like entity that is, disembodied mind and whatever you typically want to include in your conception of God. I don't have that in my ontology. I agree with you on that. We can stipulate that as the metaphysical thesis. Nevertheless, I hold to this notion of truth, that it is true that God exists. And what I'm asking is, can you make sense? Can you make sense of that? Like, what do you think one holds of the view of the world that the other doesn't?
Yeah, one can just hold to the view that there is some sort of ontological commitment to God existence, right? So, in the case of the minimalist, for example, whereas all it means to be a minimalist about truth is just simply to believe that, for example, if you're saying a given proposition is true, if you say P, that's identical to P is true, because the truth predicate is a metaphysically redundant property. It doesn't add any metaphysical heavyweight to the proposition insofar as to assert P is going to be distinct metaphysically from affirming P is true. That's all the minimalist is committed to. Now, a minimalist can have like a proposition which states that, the proposition that just God exists, right?
No, I'm
And
asking.
that
I'm asking
proposition,
about.
hold on, real quickly,
I'm,
real
I'm
quickly.
asking
No,
about
I'm
the.
talking about the conversation you guys had previously. Because remember, in that
But I
conversation,
just.
I'm
But I
saying
just
that,
asked you a
hold
question.
on,
Right?
hold on. Yeah, the question I'm answering right now, but you're interrupting her. So I'm telling you that in the conversation you and Friedego had about whether or not there is a relevant distinction between a minimalist who is claiming that God exists and an atheist, insofar as if you can make sense of that position, right? In the case where there would be a distinction, I'm telling you that there's an obvious distinction, right? And I'm telling you that it is not the case, given your perspective of minimalism, that it would be true that they would be identical like you made it out to be. They're not going to be identical propositions, right? If you hold to
What's
Aquinas'
gonna
criteria
be?
of ontological
What's gonna
commitment, it
be?
would be this. What's up?
No, hold on. Let's just. What was the thing that's gonna be identical? Before you went into like the
I'm not
Aquine,
claiming
what
that
was
they
it?
would be. I'm denying that proposition. You're claiming that the theist who's a minimalist about truth, when they made the claim that God exists, that's going to be semantically identical to an atheist who's claiming that God does not exist. I think that's retarded.
Wait, semantically identical?
Yeah, insofar as they're just talking about the same thing. They just mean the same
Did
thing.
I
Yeah, just the same
did I
belief.
ever say semantically identical?
You said they were identical.
I said what?
You said they were identical. So if you're talking about two propositions and you're saying that these two things are identical, that's going to be an
But I
identity
never
claim
said
about
the two
linguistics.
propositions are identical.
You did say this. You said there is no distinction between a theist who's making the claim that God exists if they're a minimalist about
What I
truth,
said.
and an atheist
No, no, no.
who's making the claim
I
that God
think
does
you're.
not exist.
No, no,
I'm
no. I
not
think you're
confused, by the way.
confused.
Before you say I'm confused, I knew you were going to say that. I'm not confused. You verbatim said what you were talking.
If I never said that and you attribute it to me, what else explains that other than that you were confused? I mean, you might have misheard what I said. That's still going to be a form of confusion. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Venus, it's not you. Apollo's cutting out.
I think I disconnected. Because I kept disconnecting earlier for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I can't hear Apollo either, so I don't think it's you.
He swears I was DDoSing him, by the way. No, Nick, it's just your internet.
Hide, stop
You
sending
there?
back, bro.
I bugged out for a moment. So I'm saying that in the case of what you were talking about, when you said that there is, in fact, or rather, both the theist who's a minimalist about truth and the atheist, they will not be ontologically committed to God's existence, which is why you asked them repeatedly for a distinction. I'm telling you that there would be a ontological commitment. Just because you're a minimalist is making an
There will
existential
be
claim, right? It doesn't automatically
ontological.
indicate it's not automatically emblematic of it being the case that you would not be ontologically committed to the reference of that proposition.
I'm not sure what
So
you're
you just lost.
talking about now, but like, I mean, I could elaborate what I think you're confused about and then ask you the question again if you like.
I would first prefer for you to address what I just said before you ask me questions.
Well, I was like in the middle of explaining why you were confused before you disconnected. But
Okay,
if you
no, you were
wanna,
actually finished talking. Pretty sure you were.
no, I like left and came back because I thought I was the one who disconnected,
Okay,
but
got you.
apparently it was
So
you.
to be clear, do you know my actual
But
argument is currently, or my actual objection is? Hello? Your
10-minute
Venus.
monologue thing, because I think I was gonna keep introducing like a lot of things, and I'd rather just like focus on one thing at the time, like I was doing with like the previous interlocutor.
I was doing one point at a time, by the way.
So,
I'm asking you if you remember what
so
my
let's
point
just
actually is.
so let's go back to the why I think you're confused. Do you want to discuss that point?
I want to discuss if you even know what my point even is in the conversation.
Like which one? I think your point
I literally
was
made one
that you
point.
thought. Well, I thought the point you made was that I said that they're semantically identical, which I said I never said that. I was going to explain why that's confused.
So you don't think
Wasn't
it
that
is
like
the case that you made the claim? You don't think it is the case you made the claim that both the theist, who is a minimalist, and the atheist, they'll both not be ontologically committed to God existing. You don't think you made that claim?
But that's a different claim. I mean, I don't. That's a different
No, it's the
claim.
same claim, by the way.
I
No,
don't
it
think.
isn't. But you
I don't
did say
think.
this.
I don't think they're both going to be ontologically committed. I never made that claim either. But that's a different claim from the semantical claim.
No. You did make that claim, and that's on the clip. And then you just affirmed that you don't think they would both be ontologically. You don't think it would be the case that either of these
Yeah, but
persons
I
would
don't
be
understand
ontologically.
why. I don't understand why you
Hmm.
keep saying it's on the clip. Like if you
Yeah,
misunderstood
because
what
it
I
is on the
said,
clip.
you
I'm
can
making it
ask
clear to you that
me.
it is on the clip. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I'm saying you misunderstood me, why would you say it's on the clip? As if
It's
like,
not a matter of misunderstanding. You said I was confused about
we're
something
like under.
verbatim.
No, but you seem to be like
I don't know what
treating
you're
this
talking
like
about.
we're like in court or something. I
I
thought you
don't know
wanted
what
to
you're
like
doing
ask
where
me
you
a
believe
question.
for some reason
I
that
thought you
someone's
wanted to ask
saying. You think
me.
someone is
I thought you
banned
wanted.
from saying something is on the recording?
No, I'm just saying I don't know why you're treating this like we're at court or something. That just kind of seems like weird to me.
It's not
I
weird
thought you were
for
like
you to say
interested.
to someone that something is on the clip. What are you talking about? How is that weird? But let's get off the meta,
Yeah,
right? We're just going to
yeah. When
focus
I'm
on
like,
your claim, right?
yeah, it is
Yeah,
weird. Like when somebody
it's
wants to
weird that
ask
you're
me
going on the meta
questions.
right now because you don't
And
want to
then I
actually
say
talk
to
about the
them, I
subject
think
matter.
you misunderstood me there. And they say, well,
And
that's
you're
on
still going off on the
recording.
meta.
I think
Why are
that
you
is
giving a
kind
meta
of weird,
comment?
yeah.
Just stay on topic. So the claim you made is
Like if you're
simply
if you're
that
talking to someone on the street,
okay.
right,
So finally,
and you're asking about
we're gonna get back to
directions,
the topic.
and he
So
says,
the
you know,
claim
the
you made is
supermarket
simply
is
that the
around
claim
the
that God
corner.
exists.
And then he
That
said,
claim,
oh,
if you're a
but earlier you
minimalist,
said
would
the
be the same
supermarket is on the
as claim
left.
that
And he
God does
said,
not
no, I
exist
never said
because
on
you're
the
supposed
left.
to not involve
And the guy was said,
ontological
what is
commitment.
on recording?
Do you still adopt
You
this
don't think the
proposition?
person
Yes or
giving
no?
the directions there would
Yes or
find that to
no?
be weird?
Yes or no? Answer my question. Yes or no? Do you agree with this
No, but
proposition, which you just said you agreed on?
I
I
just
don't know why
asked you
you're
a
just running
question
away from
though.
the conversation right now. This is just bad for you. This is like
I'm
bad
not running away
suboptimal
from
feeling.
the
You're
conversation.
running
I
away
was
because
going
the
to clarify
conversation
why
is
you're
about the
confused. Then
claims
you went on
that
to
the
this
atheist
like
makes, and you're
on the
talking about whether or not it's
recording
weird to say that
and
something
this
is
like
on the clip. What are you
monologuing
talking about, dude?
and
What are
this
you
like over
talking about? Let's stay on
talking.
topic. Quick, is the
Because like
conversation about
it's just gonna
theism,
be like a waste of
or is the
both of our time if we
conversation?
just
Are
want
we
to
gonna
do
keep on
this,
meta
like over
rambling?
talking
Are we
each
gonna
other.
keep on meta rambling? I'm
So
waiting
like,
for the response to
do
my
you wanna
question,
have the
dude.
discussion, or do you wanna do this like
Yeah, I
monologue?
want to have a discussion about your claims about theism, not about whether it's weird to say that something is on the clip, you moron. So let's stay on topic. Lock in.
Wait,
So the claim you made,
why are you like
the
angry?
claim you
Like
made,
first
the
the
claim you
recording
made,
thing, now calling
the
me like a
claim you
moron.
made.
What's
Look at
going
him
on
running.
there,
You're
buddy?
sprinting away from the substance. The claim you made that God exists, right? That claim specifically, you said that claim, if you're a minimalist, both the minimalist and the atheist would not be
So give me 1
ontologically
second.
committed to God. Do you still agree with this proposition? Yes or no? Or do you concede that's a wrong proposition? That's an incorrect proposition?
So I'm just doing something. Give me 1 second.
Okay, dude.
So what was it that you said? You want me to
Okay,
clarify
so the
something?
claim, so what you said originally in the conversation against Free the Goat, you said if a minimalist makes the claim that God exists, right? Both the minimalist and the atheist would not be ontologically committed to God existing, right?
Wait,
Do you
what?
still believe this incorrect proposition? Yes or no?
No, I think you're confused about what I said.
I
I
think you're
mean, you
confused
want me
about your own
to?
point, which is why you're trying to project your confusion. You said this verbatim. You said there is no distinction either between the two propositions. And you also
I mean, do you
mentioned
want
an
me to
absence of ontological
explain?
commitment if you're a
Do you want me
minimalist.
to explain? Do you want me to explain what I
If
said?
I explain it just mean
Like,
changing your position, no, I don't want you to change your position. I want you to stay on the same
no, but
position you made previously.
I don't understand what you want now, because I said, do you want me to explain my position? You said no. I said I never said that, and he keeps saying I said that. I don't understand like what goal you have here in mind. Hello? Hello?
Oh, he died again. All right.
Okay.
No, Venus,
So I'm like,
it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Don't worry.
What
oh,
you said
okay.
against Free the Goat. The thing about what you said against Free the Goat, sorry about the connection issues. Think about what you said to Free the Goat, right? If you want to claim that you did not make the assertion that there's some sort of differences or there's no difference in ontological commitment between the minimalist who is a theist and an atheist, if you want to make that claim, right, then that's an incorrect proposition. Of course, there can be a difference. There are multiplication errors where you could be a minimalist insofar as you're a minimalist about truth and still be ontologically committed to God existing, right? If you want to make that claim is incorrect. That's going to get debunked in less than 10 seconds, right? But if you don't want to make that claim, if you want to basically retract from the claim you made previously against Free the Goat and play this he say, she say game, then we can just have a conversation about the topic independently of the disagreements between you and Free the Goat. So which one is it?
No, but I never said any of that. I can explain to you what I said, but I'm not sure if you're like interested in doing that. Right. I'm kind of like
Uh,
puzzled. What is it that you want now? Like, are you like trolling, or like what is like? Do you want to
I
have a
wanted to talk to you about the
conversation, or
contentious claim you made. Look, I wanted to talk to you about the claim you made, which I disagreed with. But apparently, you're telling me here that you did not make this claim, so it's just a he say, she say game, which I don't really care about. So what we can do instead is we can just have a
wait,
new
what is the
conversation.
claim you think? What is the claim you think
The
that I made?
claim that I think you made was the claim about it being the case that if you're a minimalist about truth and you made the claim that God exists, You would not be ontologically committed to God existent, just like how the atheist would not be ontologically committed to God existent. I am telling you that's a retarded claim. Now, if you want to move away from the claim you made previously and say that you did not make this claim and lie about me being confused, which I'm not confused about it because I heard you say this verbatim. If you want to say
Wait, what
that,
do you
then that's
think?
fine.
Well, you
We can just
said
have a new
you can
conversation.
be.
hmm
What you're saying? I said that you can be a minimalist about truth, and you could say God exists is a true proposition, and you can say on here I'm being a minimalist about the notion of truth, and that could still be ontologically committing. Is that what you're saying?
That's my position. That's not your position. You are
Okay, so
claiming the contrary.
what is ontologically committing supposed to be here? That you believe the thing
Ontologically
exists?
committed is just going to be the type of thing which, given a domain
Wait,
of
what's the
quantification, would exist in the real world. What's up?
sorry, ontologically committing just means you being committed to the thing existing.
Yeah, we can go under a quant
And
criterion of
minimalist and
ontological
minim
commitment, right?
no, let's just stick with that if that's what you agree with. And minimalist is supposed to be
I
what?
just told
The
you, I just clarified the position. What are you talking about, dude? You're acting as if I'm
okay.
changing my claims.
No,
hmm
because I think you're contradicting yourself. Unless you're just using the
How is
terms
there a
differently than I
contradiction?
am.
Wait, how is there a
Um,
contradiction?
but I said
Wait, how is there a
unless you're
contradiction?
using the term differently. I never said
Wait,
you're
hold on here a
contradicting
second. Wait, hold
yourself
on a second. I
without
want you to lay out the
qualification.
contradiction. No, you can't make claims like I contradicted myself and just run away from the claim. How is there contradiction? What
But
are the
I
two opposing
but I
propositions?
said you're contradicting
hmm
yourself unless you're using the terms differently than I am.
When you say unless you're using the terms differently than I am, could you elaborate on which terms you're indexing the potential
Yeah, but
contradictions with this
like
conversation?
before you tried to do I don't know this like cutting me off. I was going to ask you how you're using the other
I'm not
terms.
asking you to ask
But
me a
then
question. I want you to
but
lay
then
out the
you got like
contradiction which
excited
would be
about
potential.
then you got like excited about me saying contradiction. So like as I said
No one is
earlier, if
getting
you want to have a
excited about
conversation, we
using a
should have like
contradiction.
some
I'm just curious about what the contradiction would be. And this is not
yeah,
optically appealing, by the way. Where's the
but
contradiction?
you
Potentially
just like
speaking.
wasted like 4 minutes.
I
Um
wasted 4 minutes because of the fact that I
because you
was
didn't
unable to realize that you're unable to stick to the substance. I agree with you on that point.
no,
I
but
had
like you
high
wasted four
expectations.
minutes
So what
because
I'm
you
gonna do?
couldn't
No,
like
the reason as to
hear me
why I
out.
wasted 4 minutes is because I had
But
high
let me know when you're done
expectations. I didn't
speaking and then we
realize.
can
I didn't realize. I'm gonna let you know I'm done speaking. I
but
didn't
now you're just like
realize
wasting more
that you're the
time, right?
type of person who derails from substance. So again, I'm asking you, which terms do you think would be the type of thing which would raise a potential contradiction given the claim I made and by assessment of
Now you
ontological
just like
commitment?
wasted
Now I'm
another
done
three
talking.
minutes.
That was not even three
Yeah,
minutes. You can't even track the conversation, and nor can you track the time which is going on currently. I'm asking you one more time, where's the potential contradiction?
that's another minute wasted right there.
That was not even 1 minute, that was 10 seconds or less. Retard. Now stick to the substance. Are you going to respond to my question, or are you going to do more meta
That was
derails?
another that was another 30 seconds wasted.
And that's another meta response without any actual response to the substance. Interest.
Are you done speaking now or do you want to do
Yeah,
another minute?
usually when someone ends a sentence and asks you to respond,
Okay,
they're done talking.
I guess we're doing another minute.
I'm waiting for you to go off the meta and actually address the substance. Go for it.
Yeah, so if you actually let me finish, I said you're contradicting yourself unless you're just using the terms differently than I am. Now,
And what was my
you
next
said,
response?
I don't know why you're cutting me off like I'm in the middle of speaking.
I'm cutting you off because you're going off point again. But what was my
Yeah,
next
but look,
response?
we're just gonna waste time if you keep cutting me off. We're not gonna
What
go
is my
anywhere.
next response?
So like, try to like control yourself, right? Don't cut anybody off.
You should
Just
control your
breathe,
attention span,
breathe.
which is extremely low right now,
Because
and
like
focus
last
on
time
the
you
actual
cut me off,
subject.
you didn't hear when
You're
I said
avoiding the issue.
unless you're using the term differently, and we ended up wasting like
But
5 minutes
what
on
is
it.
my next
Just like
response? What
let's
is my
try
next
this. Like let's
response?
calm down. Let me finish.
I'm
Let me
perfectly
land the
calm. I
plane,
don't care
and
about
then
the
you can
tone
speak.
policing strategy. What is my next
So
response?
so I'm gonna start from the get
Mm-hmm.
go again, right? I said I think
He's
you're
gonna
going to be
meta ramble.
contradicting yourself unless I mean each time you cut me off, I'm just gonna repeat from the start. So like,
I mean, if that's your excuse
do you
for dodging the
wanna
question, go for it.
sit here all day, or do you wanna attempt to have like a productive
I'm
conversation?
waiting for the response to the other question.
Okay, so I'm gonna start from the get go again. I said you're gonna be contradicting yourself with that statement unless You're just using the terms differently than I am. Now I asked you, I said, what do you take ontologically committing to be? And it sounds like you just said it means for the thing to exist. Then you tried to go into some Quine thing. I said we don't have to go that far. Just ontologically committing is going to be the thing exists. The next question I was going to ask you is, what do you take minimal here to be? Now, when I say I have a minimalist notion of truth, what do you think that means?
So not only have I already clarified this concept in the beginning of this conversation about minimalism, but you did not even address the other part of the question, which came after you clarified that you're saying there's a contradiction unless we're using the terms differently. I was asking indexed to which terms in particular are you making the claim that there would in fact be a contradiction, right? Which you have not addressed, by the way. So you're not stipulating what specific terms would basically determine if there is or is not a contradiction. Secondly, a minimalist about truth, in
What's
my
the
view. Oh,
minimalist?
look at the interruption. Interesting. You were crying about interruptions a while ago. So the minimalist, by the way, just to be clear on a couple of things, they're just going to make the proposition that the truth predicate is not the type of thing which carries any metaphysical heavyweight, insofar as just to assert by proposition X is the same as asserting that proposition X to be true. That's how it's conventionally understood in philosophy. Now, I'm asking you simply, how does it follow from this definition, this conceptual
Just
assessment of minimalism?
let's
You're
type.
interrupting again.
Wait.
You're interrupting
Hold on.
again. Just calm down there. Calm down, Ape. I'm still talking. So I was just going to ask you the primary question, which you've been evading from the entire time. How does it follow from a minimalist about truth that if you were to be a minimalist and you claim that God exists, you would both be the type of person which is not ontologically committed to God existing, just like the atheist? How is that something which follows from minimalism? Tell me. Don't run away.
Yeah, just explain the minimal thing again, because you went on like conventionally, metaphysically heavyweight. I'm not like just
Yeah, I
tell me
told you that the
minimalism means
minimalist
what?
about truth. I'm trying to define it and
Minimalist
you're talking over me, right?
means
So I'm telling you right now, the minimalist about
Mhm.
truth, by the way, what they're going to say is that the truth predicate does not carry any metaphysical heavyweight. It does not denote a deep property. So to say, for example, snow is white is true. To say snow is white is identical to saying that snow is white is true. And so truth is just a mere logical device, right? In the sense where it points out this quotation and it has no metaphysical property or underweights or heavyweights whatsoever. So I'm asking you, how does it follow from this definition of what it means to be a minimalist? That if you were to be a minimalist about truth and you make the claim that God exists, how does it follow from a minimalist view that you would both be the type of person which is not ontologically committed to God existing, like the atheist? How does that follow? Hello? Did he leave or something, or did that bug out? Which one is it?
He left. Bro.
Yo, I'm back.
Yo.
I'm back. But yeah, apology. He's cutting out suddenly.
sorry, did I
Did
cut
he
Yeah.
out?
leave
Or
or
did
something?
no? I think you disconnected.
No,
No, I
I
did
think
it.
you were disconnecting, bro. Like, you were lagging.
I was lagging or Venus? Which one is it?
Mr. V.
Okay, got you. Cool. So I'm just gonna repeat my point. So what I'm telling you here is simply that a minimalist about truth, all they're claiming there is simply that it is the case that there's no metaphysical heavyweight which is associated with the truth predicate, right? And so all that is going to be basically pointing out is that if you claim that snow is white, that's identical to saying that snow is white is true. That's how minimalism is understood philosophically. I'm telling you here, or rather I'm asking you, how does it follow from this perspective of truth and analysis that it would be the case that if you're a theist, while simultaneously adopting the minimalist theory, that you would not be
Hello,
ontologically committed to God existing? How does that follow? I'm asking you this question numerous times.
hello.
yeah, we hear you.
We can hear you, yeah. Just answer the question.
Is he lagging again? What's happening?
He's not muted, by the way. I think he's running away from the question like he's been
Can
doing
you
the entire
guys
time.
can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
I can hear you right now, yeah, so answer my question if you heard my question.
Okay, so I asked you what minimalism is, and you said truth predicate does not carry any metaphysical heavyweight, does not
Yep.
denote any property. What does metaphysical
Does not
heavyweight
denote any
mean?
deep property. Forgot that part.
Yeah.
Not
What
any
does
property.
metaphysical heavyweight here mean?
Metaphysical heavyweight is just talking about the type of thing which is going to require some sort of existential commitment. And usually existential commitment.
Existential. Wait.
Out. Yeah, I'm still talking. Just relax for a second. I'm
Existential
talking.
commitment.
I
Okay.
thought we were doing the no interruptions game. What's going on, Chim Champ? What I'm saying here is simply that when you're talking about no existential commitment, we're just talking about whether or not something would exist given the, let's say, truth predicate. So, for example, if I have the truth predicate, would it be the case that I would have to have some sort of metaphysical heavyweight which is associated with that truth predicate? The answer is no, right? So it is conceptually open to making claims about fiction, and that claim would still be correct.
Wait, so without metaphysical heavyweight, and metaphysical heavyweight means you said existential commitment?
Yes, that
Is what you
means you
said?
have to be committed to the existence of the reference. Hold, I'm still clarifying, by the way. You can just type it down afterwards.
Existential
So, as I was going to
commitment.
say, that means you not be committed to the existence of the referent under the condition that it would be the case that the proposition which
Hello?
Yo, bro, everyone's just lagging in this wreck, isn't it, bro?
Mm-mm-mm.
hello,
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I bugged out.
Yeah, like you just weren't talking.
Okay, so what I was saying was I was talking about existential commitment and what that means simply the type of thing which is going to require you having to believe that something exists under the condition of believing the proposition to be true. So something like Santa Claus lives at North Pole, you don't have to be committed to the existence of Santa Claus under the condition that that proposition is true, right? Anyone let me know if I'm bugging out, by the way, just to be clear.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. So is it just Venus who's not talking?
Yeah, he's just not talking, bro. Like, bro, what
Okay.
the hell's going on?
I don't know what's going on with the server. Like, why do I keep getting kicked out every 2 seconds?
It might be your
That's what I'm
internet, bro.
saying.
I think there's something wrong. But yeah, is Apollo back there?
I'm right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go back. Let's go through what you said. You said that minimalism without metaphysical heavyweight, that means without existential commitment. And you said
Under the
ontologically
condition of the
committing
proposition being true, yes.
under the okay, let me just add that under the proposition being true. And you said earlier ontological commitment is just that the thing exists. So existential commitment and ontological commitment would be the same thing.
No. I told you ontological commitment is to be committed to the existence of said reference of a proposition.
So let's just
And even under
repeat
that
this.
current definition, the same logic applies. So I don't even care about the changing up of the wordings of my definition. But that's fine.
So let's go back to ontological commitment. If I say something is ontologically committing, am I saying the thing exists, or am I saying something else?
I'm saying that you'd be committed to the existence of a given thing, which is referenced by the proposition under the condition of that thing.
Commitment
Which is what I've just told you a while ago in the
to a
definition.
given thing. commitment to the existence of, and existential commitment was also just the commitment to the existence of a thing under the commitment that the proposition being true.
Under the condition that the proposition is
So
true.
so let's just stipulate under the condition of being
You're
true.
getting the words wrong, dude.
Ontological commitment and existential commitment means the same thing under your view.
Yes.
Under the
of course,
condition.
definitely.
Okay. Okay.
Why
good.
would it not?
So your initial claim was that somebody could be a minimalist and accept somebody could be a minimalist and accept that, you know, God exists is true under the minimalist notion. And still, because he accepts it, it's going to be ontologically committing. That was your initial claim. Right?
No. Incorrect.
Okay, so what was your
What I
initial
told
claim?
you was someone can be a minimalist about truth, believe the proposition that God exists, and simultaneously adopt the proposition that God is a being which exists independently of mind in the robust metaphysical sense. That's not the same as what you just said a while ago. What I'm
Now it
just
sounds like you're
clarifying here
kind
is
of
that
changing.
hold on, I'm still talking. What I'm clarifying here is simply that a minimalist about truth, right? It's open to making claims about fictional objects, and those claims are true. However, that does not automatically indicate that all propositions that a minimalist is going to be affirming about the world itself are going to be the types of propositions whereas they do not have any sort of commitment to the existence of the reference expressed by those propositions. That's different.
But let's just cut things short because, like, you kind of yap too much, and I'm not sure if you like
It's not
to
you have
revise
too
your
much, you just
position.
have this really
So,
bad tracking ability, you know? It's kind of embarrassing.
so let's just
Very simple stuff.
initially.
Yeah.
So your initial position was not, because what I said initially, and I thought you were trying to dispute, was that if somebody holds to a minimalist semantics and they say God exists is true, they don't have an ontological commitment. And I thought you were like trying to dispute that part. To which I said, you might be contradicting yourself unless you're using the terms differently. And it sounded like
I have
you
a
weren't
dispute with the
using
other
it.
proposition.
It sounded like you weren't
Mm-hmm.
using the terms differently because after like 15 minutes of just trying to make you define simple terms, we came to the agreement that minimalism just means asserting truth without ontological commitment, which just means
That's not the claim I just
not
made.
taking the things. Which hold on, it just
What are you
means
talking about?
taking the thing. Wait, you just said
I said the
ontological
truth
commitment.
predicate. I'm saying the truth predicate does not require you to be committed to any sort of ontology. That's not the same as saying you cannot be committed to the ontology or the existence of a referent expressed by a true proposition while being a minimalist. You're confused, dude. Yeah, we spent 15 minutes trying to bake out and cash out the semantics, and even then, you're still confused about what is contained here. It's not this difficult, man. We can go over this one more time.
Let's just repeat this one more time. We agreed that minimalism means you're not ontologically committed when you assert propositions to be true. For example, I can assert things to exist, but I'm not going to be ontologically committed to taking that the referent exists. That's what we agreed upon, right?
I've clarified that
I just
what
like a
that
yes or a
means
no would be
simply that
nice.
given I'm still talking, just relax. You're interrupting.
Just like a yes or a no
Given the
would be nice.
condition of the proposition, what are you doing, dude? Are you okay?
Yeah, but it's not going to be
Anyways,
elucidating for you to
you're
go and
doing this
make a
thing where you're
10-minute
interrupting
monologue.
because you're getting insecure about the conversation. I don't want to go off to the method. Let's just focus on the substance, okay? I don't
Just
care about
give
your
me like a
meta
yes or a
comments.
no to the question.
To clarify, you think a question can only be answered in a yes or no?
It's a yes or a no question. Though.
Yeah, so you're just really scared for me to clarify the position because you're so dishonest, right? I'm telling
No,
you
because
here.
I don't want you
I
to go
don't.
on
We
another
don't
10
care.
minutes
We're
in
not
which there's going to be
interested
no
in your
clarity.
dishonest
And I'm just
scumbag
going to have
rhetoric.
to ask the question
Let me
again.
speak. What I'm telling you here is simply, I can just easily mute you if I want to. Just shut up. Okay. What I'm telling you here is simply that when I
I
say
just want like a
that a
yes or a no.
minimalist,
That's possible.
since you can't control yourself because you're a barbarian ape, when I say that a minimalist, right, is not going to be the type of theory which was going to make you ontologically committed, given the fact of a proposition being true. All I'm saying there is simply that it is not necessarily true that if a proposition was to be true, it would be the case that this is actually the type of thing which would in fact be something which involves ontological commitment to the reference of said proposition. Now I can get unmuted.
Wait, did you mute? Wait, did you mute me?
Yeah, you just have a really bad
Wait,
control
why did you
issue,
mute
man.
me?
Like you're just really bad at controlling yourself.
Wait, but you want to talk to me. Why did you like mute me? I don't understand.
Because you're over talking me. That's the reason. You're
I thought
just
you
not
wanted to have a
allowing
conversation.
me to give an answer to your question. And that's really strange. Really strange
Yeah,
with
but
the whole
like, I don't
conversation.
see, it's not strange because I don't see why a
Yeah, it's
10-minute
strange
monologue
for
is
you
going to
to
be
prevent
productive.
someone from answering the question you want them to answer, Venus. It's really strange. Now give a response to my argument, please, and thank you.
Yeah, but just look, if you just like stop doing this whole debate bro thing, we could actually make some progress in this conversation. Because
Says the
initially I
guy who was
take it,
meta-debating on awareness. Interesting.
no, I think it is weird when I'm trying to clarify something to you that you say it's on recording. I think that's like weird behavior. I think that's like
I didn't
antisocial
save
behavior,
the.
yeah.
What are you
But
talking about, dude?
like, I don't understand this like disputing like every single thing, wanting to make every single thing a debate. But I do want
What's
to
my
clarify
most
what we're
recent
like.
point, Venus?
Oh, I didn't know I was like trying to rejoin because you muted me and I
Okay,
thought I was like
I'll just
disconnecting
tell you
again.
the point again, okay? What I'm saying there simply that under a minimalist theory, it is the case that it is not necessarily true that if a proposition is true, you're ontologically committed to the reference of that proposition. And all that
Listen,
means in simple terms, and all that you're doing the same thing whereas you're interrupting again. All that means in simple terms, in simple kindergarten terms, is simply you don't have to believe an object exists if you believe there's a true proposition about this object. Simply.
all right. So like, it sounds like we're in agreement that under minimalism, if you're like a minimalist about truth, asserting a certain proposition to be true is not gonna commit you ontologically to whatever term is
You're
being
not
used there.
tracking the disagreement.
Now,
I agree we're agreeing on that point.
but
That's
I
not the
just said
disagreement.
it sounds like we're agreeing.
We're agreeing on that point,
Why?
but that's not the
Right.
point of disagreement I'm bringing forth here. I'm bringing forth here.
Okay. So we agree on that point. And the initial point that I made that I thought you were like disputing was if the theist says I hold to like a minimalist notion and he starts
Mm-hmm.
uttering existential propositions, theological propositions that given his to believing God exists. And what I was asking your friend about is what's the difference between that guy and the other guy in terms of how they view the world? It wasn't a semantical claim that they're expressing the same proposition or they're saying the same thing. I was asking your friend, what is it that you think one holds of the world that the other doesn't?
Obviously, the object of God, right? So when you ask the question, you clarified afterwards that you don't believe that there would be a distinction between those two propositions in the sense whereas they would both be propositions which would involve an absence of ontological commitment. That's false. That's incorrect.
Hold on. No, now you're just yapping nonsense again. Just listen to the
You think that
question.
was yapping?
We agree. Listen, we agree now that you have the atheist, you have this
Are you okay,
theist.
dude?
Was like, just listen. We can make some progress here without like the whole
I've been trying to make
trolling,
progress, but you're
laughing,
just bad at making
but
progress.
like all monologuing. Just listen.
I
We
don't know
have the
why you're gonna
theist,
cry about someone
and we have
laughing
the
at you making
atheist.
stupid points
I'm
when you're trying
not.
to classify their points
I'm
as yap
not.
nonsense.
I'm not crying. I'm just trying to save time. You have the
I'm just
atheist.
waiting
You
for
have
you
the
to respond to
theist.
what I actually said, another strawman of my points. Thank you.
Okay, if you don't want to have a conversation, we don't need to have a conversation. Like you
Someone
just say you
forcing
don't
you to
want to
not
have a
strawman their
conversation.
position is them not wanting to have a conversation.
What
What are
did
you
I?
talking
What did
about?
I? What did I straw man?
You strawmanned the disagreements that we have in this conversation. You took it to be the case that us merely agreeing on the idea of minimalism not being ontologically committed in the sense we're talking about is the main point of the conversation. Then you also took it to be the
I
case.
never said
You
that's the
also
main
took it to
point
be
of
the
the
case.
conversation.
Hold on there a second. Hold on a second. And then you also took it to be the case that in the context of your free to go conversation, right? It would be true that there would be no distinction in the way they're viewing the world, and thought I was basically agreeing on that specific point, considering that we both hold the same position of minimalism. That's
I never,
retarded, dog.
I never, I never said any of those things. Like
You
I
never
don't
said any of
understand.
those
Like
things?
I don't understand. Like what's going
What's so
on now?
confusing
Like
for you in this conversation, dude?
is this
It's not that
supposed?
hard to track the conversation.
Is this like over talking and being constantly confused? Is this supposed to
You
be like good
overtalked me
debate
numerous times in the
tactics?
conversation. I don't know what you're crying about.
I mean, I was trying to make some progress, but you claimed I was like crying. But like, you
I'm
didn't
waiting
get
for it to
anywhere.
actually respond to my point. Do you think you're making some progress? Do you think you're trying to make some progress?
I was trying to make some progress by asking you a question.
Then
Yeah.
why did you spend 5 minutes
But
babbling
look,
about whether it's word or not to say that something is on the clip? Why did you spend 5 minutes doing that if you're really trying to make some progress?
well, you brought the clip thing up again. I was
I
just
said
trying to
it's on the
explain to you
clip,
why
and then
that's
you
not
spent
weird.
5 minutes debating on whether or not it's weird to say something is on the clip, and start giving
Yes.
analogies about that instead of just sticking to a theistic conversation.
Oh,
Don't show the
because
virtue signal here. Just stay on the
I
point.
took it that you want me to answer the question, or I took it that you wanted to ask me a question, and then
And
when
now
I
I'm
was about
more
to
meta.
clarify my view,
And you're still
yeah, but
on the
you
meta
just
right
asked
now.
me. But you just asked me a meta question.
I ask you to respond to my point and not the
You
strawman of
just
my point. What are you talking
no,
about?
you
Are you
asked me
okay?
why did I bring up you just asked me why did I bring up the
That was a
video?
rhetorical question, you moron. Holy shit. I'm basically pointing out that
You
you bringing that point up is going to be inconsistent with you
I
making
don't
the claim you're trying to make progress. Now, anyways, let's get back to the
you
theistic point. Now, do you want to continue talking about the minimalism stuff, or do you want to ramble about what is weird or what is not weird? Which one is it?
I don't understand like why you're like over talking. I mean, if it was like a rhetorical question, we could
Even
like
more
go
meta.
back to what I was trying to do.
Let's do it.
Right. So like I was
You want to go
just
first?
asking you, yeah, I was
Mm-hmm.
asking you if you have the theist and the atheist, right?
Okay.
They both, and the theist comes to the atheist and he says, I agree with you on the ontological question, right? I don't think there is anything in the world that is just like disembodied triumni God, right? But he says, nevertheless, I'm committed to this minimalistic view about truth. And so I take it that it is true that God exists. I take it that it is true that God is good and God does all these things. But nevertheless, given my minimalist notion of truth here, I don't take them to have like any ontological bearing on what's on my ontology, such as that
Yeah,
there
you
is a
just changed the
disembodied.
proposition, right?
Now,
So you changed the
I'm
proposition. You changed the proposition
I
from you
was
saying
I was trying to I'm asking you a question. How am I changing anything?
yeah, in the question, you're changing the context of the conversation. It's not
I'm
about
in the
whether or not it's
process
not
of
about whether or
asking
not it
you
is
a
the case.
question.
It's not about whether or not it
Why
is
am
the
I
case. But
changing?
the question you're asking is irrelevant because we're not talking about a condition, whereas the atheist and the theist both agree that they're not ontologically committed to God
I
existing,
don't
but they're going
I,
to say that God exists is a true
at this
proposition.
point I just
That's
think
not
you're
what
like
you're talking about. You're changing the
at this point I
conversation. You're
just think you're
moving away from
like
the subject.
at this point I just think you're like trolling constantly. I don't think you're like actually
Is this
interested in
how
having
you
a
cope with
conversation.
you not being able to respond to legitimate points of the conversation?
I was in the middle of asking you a question, and instead of
I'm
dealing with the
telling you,
question,
the
you
question
just
is baked in the proposition, which is not relevant to the conversational context. That proposition being that you are specifically talking about the case scenario, whereas both the minimalist and the atheist agrees that they're not ontologically committed to God existence, but the minimalist believes the proposition to be true. Right? One of the propositions you're mentioning a conjunct of two propositions. Proposition one, minimalist agrees with the atheist that God is not the type of being that you're ontologically committed to. And proposition two, it is the case that the minimalist believes that God exists as a true proposition. The first conjunct is not relevant to the conversation because you're not talking about a condition whereas the minimalist is not ontologically committed to God existing. You're talking about whether it follows from them being a minimalist about truth that if they made the claim that God exists, they would not be ontologically committed to God existing. I'm saying that proposition is false. Of course, under the previous condition, it's trivially true that they will not be ontologically committed to God existence. You're just not tracking, dude.
I don't see how that answers my question. Do you just wanna answer my
If you think that was
question
not a
before you
response to
make
your
like side
question, then you're
points?
really lost in the conversation.
I'm I'm just curious. In that case, do you think there's anything different about what they hold about the world? Like, what
In
difference
that
do you think
case,
there
which is not
is?
relevant to your claim, yes, definitely.
Wait,
There will not be any
what's
distinction. In
what's
that
my
case, which is
claim?
not relevant to what you said previously, the dumb claim you made previously, yes, of course,
Wait,
there's
what
not
was
be
the
any
dumb?
distinction.
It just sounds
The
like
dumb claim you
naive.
made previously is that it would be the case. I'm gonna have to repeat this for the 15th time, by the way. The dumb claim is that you made the claim that if you're a minimalist about truth and you made the proposition that God exists, you say that proposition to be true, you would not be ontologically committed to God existence in the sense whereas you and the atheist would have the same view about the world and God's existence. That's retarded. Yeah, it's dumb. Mm-hmm. Now that's different from the
Wait.
condition of the case you just presented a while ago.
Wait, but I don't understand what you're saying now. Are you trying to?
Well,
Wait,
when have you ever understood my
are you trying
points?
to
Never,
say?
right?
Are you
So that's
trying
not
to
surprising.
say? No, but like when the theist there says God exists, it is true. But he's saying the way I'm using truth here is in a minimalist notion. Do you think he's committed
Uh-huh.
to having God as an ontology?
Do you not remember the point when I mentioned that when I say
I
a
don't know why you can't
minimalist is
answer
not?
like straight.
Do you remember? I'm
Just
answering the question right now. I'm answering the point right now in the form of a question. Do you not remember the parts of this conversation that I told you that when a minimalist is not ontologically committed as a theory insofar as the truth predicate does not carry any metaphysical heavyweight? I told you that what that means is simply under the condition of the proposition that a minimalist asserts to be true, they're not necessarily committed to believing that the reference of that proposition is something which exists. So, for example, the Santa Claus example. If I say that Santa Claus lives at North Pole, that proposition can be true under a minimalist framework. And it doesn't require the minimalist to believe that Santa Claus exists, right? However, there can be other cases in which a minimalist makes the claim that God exists, for example, or as, for example, Venus exists as a person, right? And it is the case that in that proposition, they would be committed to Venus' existence given, for example, a Quine criteria of ontological commitment, right? I'm telling you here that there would be a distinction.
okay. So
You're denying
just to
there being a
recap.
possible
Just to
distinction.
recap. Just to recap the statement. When they say God exists, that is true. Under a minimalist, you agree
Yeah.
that they're at that point not committed to God existing.
No,
Just
I'm not saying they're not committed to God existing insofar as given that proposition be true, necessarily
insofar
they
as
don't
they're
believe that
affirming.
God exists.
Let me
What
let
do I
me
mean when I say
let me
that someone is
qualify.
committed to some given ontology?
Let me qualify the question. Just let me qualify the
Go
question.
for
See,
it. Land your shot, man.
in affirming God exists is
Uh-huh.
true as a minimalist. By them affirming
Yep.
that under this minimalist notion, they're saying God exists is true. Are they, by the fact alone of affirming it, committed to God being in their ontology?
What do you mean by that fact? Are they committed to this? Clarify the concept. Let's see if you're actually staying on point of the
Say,
conversation.
you don't understand what it means to affirm a proposition?
I understand what it
By the
means. I don't
fa-
think you understand what it means. I'm asking you to clarify.
Yeah. So they're saying God exists. This proposition is true. But what I have in mind with truth is the minimalist notion. Now, when they
Okay.
affirm that proposition, are they now committed to having God in their ontology?
So I'm asking you to define what it means
Just
to be
like a
committed to
yes or no.
something existing, and you're just reusing the same word to just ask you to define in the conversation. So I'm going to give you another try. When you
You're
made the
asking
claim that when you
what
made the
it means
claim, when
to.
you made the phrase of something being committed to something else's existence, what do you mean by that in the form of the question you're asking currently?
Are you asking what it means to be committed to something existing?
I told you I told you I know what it means. I'm asking you if you know what it means. I want to make sure we're on the same semantics here.
Are we using? Do we have like a different notion of committing to existence?
I don't
I
know.
just
I'm
take it to
asking you if
be.
you have the same. I'm asking you if we are on the same semantical page when we're talking
I
about being
I
committed to something
I just.
existing or something's ontology.
Well, in this case, I just take it to affirm the metaphysical thesis, which is just going to be
Okay.
there is something in the world that is a disembodied three-omni God. In the case of the moral ethical question, that in the world there are stance independent moral properties.
Okay. And so, do you understand that the point I'm making here? Do you understand the claim I'm making to be false?
But
Like which claim I'm
look, I'm
denying to be
trying.
true?
Look, I'm trying to ask you a question so I can understand what you're asking, and you're bringing this other. So let's just stick to the question.
I've
Do
asked
you
you this
think?
question before long before you just asked the question numerous times. I've asked you numerous times,
Now,
what do you think the
just
point of this
just
agreement is? And
just
you have
pause.
yet to give the point of this agreement.
Just pause the
I'm waiting
meta
for that
for like a
response.
second. Just pause for
I've,
meta, and if you have some, just
this is not
stick to this
meta.
for a
I'm asking you,
second.
what do you think the point of this agreement
Just
is? What claim do you think
stick
I'm
to.
making is false?
I'm trying to elucidate, like if you're actually disagreeing or not, because I'm
I'll
not put
type
in
out
a
the
position.
proposition, by the way, in the chat if you want me to
I don't.
explicate on what proposition
I
I'm
don't want
making
you to
false.
type. I don't want you to type anything. Just answer the question.
Maybe I have to because
So
you can't track points properly
in
in the
the
vocal conversation.
just pause the meta for a second. I just give me like a yes or a no. Right now, you've understood what I mean by
I think
commitment.
the
You've asked
question
your
is
clarifying
context
questions.
dependent.
I've qualified the question.
The question is
further.
heavily context dependent.
Now,
So you can't say yes or
now
no to a context dependent question.
I don't know how. I'm not going to take it to be trolling at this point. Like I don't understand. Like I'm trying to take you
Now he's
seriously, but like
pivoting to the
you
troll and
can't
virtuous
answer
feeling. That's
like
crazy.
you can't like answer like a simple question. I'm trying to be nice here. Just answer the question. In this
I
case,
just
do you
told you
think
the answer to the question, dog.
just
I just gave you the
just tell
answer.
me again with like a yes or
Okay,
a no.
so the answer
Okay.
to your
So
question is
there's
simply,
no room.
look at
No,
this guy
I'm
just
gonna
yapping
ask.
over me.
I'm gonna ask the question, and then just give me like a yes or like a no, and let's just go from there. In this case, when the person who is a minimalist and the minimalist theist, he affirms God exists is true. Is he, by affirming that proposition, ontologically committed to there being in the world a disembodied mind with the three omni properties? Yes or no?
You said in this case is not about that question. What are you talking about?
You can't answer a question. Like I don't. You're like
I can't
incapable
answer
of
a
answering
question,
a
or rather, I'm
question. I
not
don't
willing to answer an
like. I don't
irrelevant
know.
question, a dumb fuck derailed question. Which one is it?
I mean, I tried. I tried having a conversation with you.
I mean, if you want to run
It's
away from the
impossible to
conversation,
answer.
that's
Like
fine.
it's
But
impossible.
this case is not about
Like
whether or not a minimalist would be committed to
other
God existence if they made the
the
proposition
other
that God
guy was,
exists.
I was
This
able to like
case,
make
look at him
progress with
crying
him.
because
He
he's
was like
so
discussing.
scared
He
for me
was
to finish the
interested in
sentence.
learning.
As I was
With
gonna say,
you,
by the way, in this case
I don't
scenario,
think you're
Venus,
like
you're
interested in
literally
a
having a
conversation,
panic
man. I
attack
just
right
think you're
now.
like
You're peeing your
interested in
adult
this like
diapers
show
right
off
now
of like
because you
yapping
know
for
for a
like
fact you're
10
gonna
minutes,
destroy this
avoiding
conversation.
simple
You made a really
questions.
retarded point, and just to be clear, this because you're spazzing out while I'm talking, okay? What you're disagreeing on is the claim that the minimalists, right, if they were to make the proposition that God exists, right, given that proposition being true, right, both them and the atheists would both have the sorts of, we could say, case scenario where they have the same view of the world. I'm telling you here that whether or not they're ontologically committed to God exists depends on their criterion of exist, for example, in the proposition of God exists, right? If they hold to Aquinas' criteria of God exists, or sorry, existence, insofar as they believe God satisfies the concept, then it would be the case they're ontologically committed. If not, then they would not be ontologically committed to God exists, which is why I told you numerous times, it's not a yes or no question, it's a context-dependent question, right? So again, I'm going to tell you one more time, okay? In the context of the conversation between you and Free the Goat, okay, you're stating that they would both not be ontologically committed insofar as they both share the same view of the world. And you also made the claim that there's no distinction between the proposition a minimalist is saying when they claim that God exists and the proposition an atheist is saying when they say God does not exist. That's false. There would be a distinction, and the distinction lies in the possibility of the theist still believing that God exists in the metaphysical robust sense, despite their true theory not necessarily committed them to some sort of commitment to something exists in the sense or mind independent sense. Now I can unmute and you can give your response. Don't spaz out this time.
Oh, I just said I don't think you're interested in having a conversation. I mean, I can give you another chance if you actually choose to like answer questions.
Sorry, was that your response to my actual response to your question?
Well, you didn't answer my question.
I just did. I told you
Oh, it's
that
like a yes.
your question is context dependent, and I explicated as to how it is context dependent. And then I told you how your proposition is false. So that would be a response, by the way. Nice try though.
My proposition. I asked you a question. What proposition is going
When
to
you
be
try to
false?
dishonest to frame situations as a yes or no situation and they get exposed for that, it just makes you look optically unappealing. Yeah, it does.
Tell you what, when you're ready to like answer the question and you like genuinely want to have the conversation, I'm here.
I mean, if you want to continue schizophrenic in the conversation, that's fine, but it's just going to make you look bad in the conversation, or just simply. So, do you want to actually respond to my response to your question, or do you want to keep on derailing into non-points, which is irrelevant to your primary proposition? Or do you want to just talk about a different topic?
Well, I don't think you want to have a conversation.
I'm literally telling you to respond to my point. That's me wanting to have a conversation. What are you talking about? What's
Well,
up
I
with this
think you want
virtual signal?
I think you want a monologue for like 10 minutes, not answer any questions.
I'm waiting for the response to my question, dude.
The other guy seemed interesting in the conversation. You don't.
Projecting your opinions is not going to be a substantive response, by the way.
I don't think there is anything of substance that applies. If anybody else here
So
thinks
maybe
so,
I really have to
there-
talk about the points of disagreements here. I can point
if
to the
anybody
substantive.
else wants to ask me a question, they're free to do so.
If you want to run away, that's fine.
I don't want to run away. I asked you a question. You didn't want to answer the
I
question.
told you the point of disagreement, which would be substantive, and you'll literally be like, no, that's not substantive dispute right there. I'm like, dog, I just
But I
laid it
explained
out
to you. I
on
never
the
affirmed.
canvas for you
I
to
never.
understand it. What are you talking about?
I just
Go
I
for it.
explained to you like 10 times. I never took it that they're expressing the same thing.
So hold on there a second. So if I was to get free to go back in the voice call or even ask Rizhan in the VC, because even Rizhan, by the way, which has a decent level of understanding of these concepts, we were both literally criticizing your point because that was the proposition you were affirming. You were confused about minimalism, right? That's pretty obvious. Now you want to change the claim you made in the previous recording, in the previous conversation, from you making the claim that they're expressing the same proposition, from you stating that it would be the case that they're not expressing the same proposition. However, it is the case
But I
apparently
never
that
uttered the
you believe it
word.
to be true that they're not ontologically committed, which is not something we're disagreeing on. I'm disagreeing on the prior assertion you made of the conversation.
I never uttered they're going to be expressing the same thing, the same proposition.
You denied there being a distinction between both propositions. What are you talking about? That's the whole point
No,
of dispute.
what I said. I don't see them holding of the
Now it's
world
going to be a
anything
he say,
differently.
she say game. No one cares about this shit, dog. If you want to be dishonest and lie about your claim, it's fine. We can just talk about something else. We can just have a different conversation
I'm not.
independently of that conversation.
I'm not lying. I'm making an empirical claim that is true. I mean, if you recorded this, you can go back to the recording. I never said they're going to be expressing the same proposition. They're going to be saying the same thing. What I said is, I don't see in their view of the world there being any difference. And I asked
Look,
your
we
friend,
can
I
have a
said,
genuine
do you?
conversation about a different topic. I don't care about this he say, she say game about the previous conversation you had, because if you want to be dishonest about the claim you
But it
made,
is a
that's
he
fine. I don't really care
it
about
is a
this.
but it is a he said